My husband's fiancée mocked me with a $7,000 dance challenge in front of everyone. Not in a private room, not as a joke between women who knew each other well. She did it under bright lights, in the middle of a luxury charity gala, with 300 guests watching, cameras recording, and my ex-husband standing beside her like he had finally upgraded from the woman who helped him survive to the woman who made him look rich. Her name was Serena Vale. She was 29, beautiful, polished, and cruel in the way only insecure women can be when they think money has made them untouchable. She wore a silver dress that clung to her like water, diamond earrings that caught every camera flash, and a smile so sharp it looked rehearsed. My ex-husband, Julian, stood beside her in a black tuxedo, one hand resting on her waist, his face wearing that old expression I knew too well. Pride. Not love, not happiness. Pride. He was proud that everyone could see he had moved on from me. Maya Cross, the quiet first wife. The woman people used to call Julian's support system. The woman who kept his accounts clean, paid his rent during his first failed business year, stayed up nights helping him prepare investor decks, and stood beside him when even his own family said he would never become anything. Now I stood near the back of the ballroom in a navy dress I had owned for years, holding a glass of water, wishing I had listened to my sister when she told me not to come. But the gala was not about Julian. At least, that was what I had told myself. It was a fundraiser for the Bell House Children's Arts Program, a nonprofit my late mother had supported before she died. I had been invited because I had donated quietly for 5 years. No one knew how much, no one needed to know. I came to honor my mother. I did not come to become entertainment. But Serena saw me the moment I entered. Of course she did. Women like Serena can sense the woman before them the way a match senses dry grass. At first, she only whispered. Then she pointed. Then she laughed softly with 2 women beside her, both wearing dresses that cost more than my first car. Julian noticed too. His face changed when he saw me. For 1 second, he looked uncomfortable. Then Serena leaned into him and whispered something in his ear. He laughed. That hurt more than it should have. Not because I wanted him back. I did not. But there is a special kind of pain in watching someone who once knew every soft place in you laugh while another person steps on them. The gala was halfway through when the MC announced a spontaneous giving challenge. Rich people loved spontaneous things, planned 3 weeks in advance. The idea was simple. Guests could challenge someone to perform a lighthearted task, make a donation in their name, and encourage others to match it. Sing a song, tell a joke, share a memory, dance for 30 seconds, all for charity. People laughed, donated, clapped. A tech CEO sang badly and gave $20,000. An elderly woman told a story about her first piano teacher and gave $15,000. A retired athlete danced with his granddaughter and raised $40,000 in 2 minutes. Then Serena took the microphone. The ballroom quieted because beautiful rich women with microphones always make people curious. She smiled toward the crowd first. Then toward me. My stomach tightened. I would like to make a challenge, she said. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. I recently learned that Julian's former wife is here tonight. A ripple moved through the room. Former wife. Not Maya. Not guest. Not donor. Former wife. Julian's hand tightened slightly around his champagne glass. He did not stop her. Serena continued. And since tonight is about joy, confidence, and stepping into the spotlight, I would love to donate $7,000 if Maya will come up here and show us a dance. Laughter spread. Not loud at first. Uncertain. Some people looked at me. Some looked away. Serena tilted her head. Come on, Maya. It's for the children. There it was. The trap. If I refused, I looked bitter. If I accepted, I became a joke. The woman who had been replaced, forced to dance for the amusement of the new fiancé. A $7,000 challenge. Cheap enough for Serena to throw like a coin. Public enough to humiliate. Charitable enough to hide the cruelty. Julian leaned toward the microphone. "Serena," he said lightly, "don't put her on the spot." But he was smiling. That smile told the room permission had already been granted. Serena laughed. "Oh, Julian, don't be protective. I'm sure Maya has rhythm somewhere under all that seriousness." More laughter. This time sharper. I stood still. My fingers around the glass did not move. The MC looked nervous. A woman near me whispered, "That's awful." Another said, "Maybe they know each other?" We did not. Not really. Serena had met me only once before, at a courthouse hallway during the final month of my divorce. She had walked past me wearing sunglasses indoors, holding Julian's arm, and said, "I hope you find peace." Peace. That word sounded different from people who helped destroy yours. Across the ballroom, Julian finally looked at me fully. There was a warning in his eyes. "Do not make a scene." I knew that look. I had lived with that look. When his mother insulted my background, he gave me that look. When investors ignored my contribution, he gave me that look. When he started coming home late and I asked questions, he gave me that look. When Serena's name first appeared on his phone at midnight, he gave me that look. Do not embarrass me. Do not expose me. Do not make people uncomfortable with the truth. For years, that look had worked. Not tonight. I placed my glass on the nearest table. The room was still watching. Serena's smile widened because she thought I was coming up to dance. Julian's smile faded because he knew me better than she did. Or he once had. I walked slowly through the tables toward the stage. Every step felt louder than the music. My shoes touched the marble floor. My mother's old bracelet rested cool against my wrist. A photographer lifted his camera. The MC handed me the microphone with visible concern. Serena stood beside me, still smiling. "Good sport," she whispered. I looked at her, then at Julian. Then at the crowd. "I accept the challenge," I said. Applause broke out. Serena clapped first, delighted. "But," I continued, "I'd like to raise it." The room quieted. Serena's smile trembled. I looked toward the donation board behind us. Serena offered $7,000 for 30 seconds of public entertainment. I will donate $70,000 if she lets me tell the truth for 3 minutes. The ballroom went silent. Dead silent. Serena blinked. Julian's face went pale. The MC froze with his mouth slightly open. I smiled, not sweetly, calmly. "It's for the children," I said. Someone in the back gasped. Then a woman laughed once, quickly covering her mouth. Serena's eyes flashed. "This is inappropriate." "So was your challenge." Julian stepped forward. "Maya." I turned to him. "No, Julian. You let her bring me onto this stage. Now stay where you stood when she did it." The room changed. You could feel it. The air shifted from amusement to attention. I opened my clutch, took out my phone, and transferred the donation while everyone watched the large screen update. Anonymous donor, $70,000. Then I looked at the MC. "Please correct that. It is not anonymous. Put it under my mother's name, Ruth Adeyemi." The MC nodded quickly. Within seconds, the screen changed. "In honor of Ruth Adeyemi, $70,000. My throat tightened when I saw her name. Serena stared at the board. Julian stared at me. Because he knew. He knew my mother had cleaned dance studios after hours, so children from poor neighborhoods could take free classes. He knew she had died before seeing me become financially secure. He knew I had once sold my jewelry to help him make payroll. What he did not know was that after our divorce, I had used the settlement he fought to keep small, the shares he forgot I owned, and the consulting firm I built quietly in my own name to become wealthier than he ever imagined. Serena had tried to turn me into a charity joke. Instead, she had handed me a microphone. I looked at the room and began. My mother used to say, "Dance is not about showing off. It is about knowing your body is still yours after the world tries to make it carry shame." The ballroom stayed silent. She cleaned studios at night. She mopped floors other people danced across. She used to bring me with her because childcare was expensive. I would sit in the corner watching girls in pink shoes, wishing I could join them. My mother could not afford lessons then, but she told me, "One day, Maya, you will not watch from the corner." My voice shook. Only slightly. I let it. Tonight, Serena challenged me to dance for $7,000. She thought she was mocking the woman Julian left behind. Serena whispered, "Stop." I did not. But I was never left behind. I was released. Julian looked down. "And since this is a fundraiser for children who deserve access to art, dignity, and joy, I will not dance as a joke. I will fund a full scholarship program so no child has to sit in the corner because their mother can only afford to clean the floor." The room erupted. Not laughter this time. Applause. Real applause. People stood. One table first, then another, then nearly half the room. The donation board began changing. $75,000, $82,000, $96,000, $110,000. People were matching. Serena's face had gone white. Julian looked like he wanted the floor to open. I handed the microphone back to the MC. But before I stepped down, I turned to Serena. "Thank you for the challenge." Then I walked off the stage. I did not dance that night. I did something better. I turned humiliation into a door. But the real surprise was not the $70,000. It was what Julian discovered the next morning. The company he had mocked me for starting after our divorce had just signed a partnership deal with the same investment group he had been begging to impress for 6 months. And by sunrise, the people who had laughed at me would learn that the woman Serena tried to shame was now the one holding the invitation Julian needed most. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if you have ever been mocked by someone who only knew the version of you that survived, stay with this story, because sometimes the person they challenge for a laugh is carrying a blessing big enough to change the whole room. My name is Maya Adeyemi Cross. I kept Cross after the divorce at first, because changing documents felt like another kind of exhaustion. Later, I returned to Adeyemi because I realized I had spent too many years carrying a name that had never carried me. My mother, Ruth Adeyemi, was the strongest woman I have ever known. She did not look strong in the way people expect. She was small, soft-spoken, always tired, always carrying a canvas bag full of receipts, snacks, hair ties, and something broken she intended to fix later. She worked 3 jobs when I was little. Mornings at a dry cleaner, afternoons as a school cafeteria assistant, evenings cleaning dance studios, offices, and sometimes private homes where people left half-full glasses of expensive wine beside trash bags they expected someone else to carry. My father was a musician who loved loudly and left easily. He could make a room sing, but not a family feel safe. When I was 8, he went on tour with a local band and never really came back. There were calls at first, postcards, promises, then silence that became normal. My mother never called him useless. She simply said, "Your father knows how to make music. He never learned how to stay for the quiet after it ends." That was how she spoke. Gentle words carrying hard truths. She loved dance. Not professionally, not for applause. She loved what dance did to children who felt invisible. She said movement gave shy kids a voice before they had courage. She believed every child should know what it felt like to take up space without apologizing. But lessons cost money. Costumes cost money. Shoes cost money. Everything beautiful seemed to cost money. So I watched. From corners, from benches, from doorways. While my mother cleaned mirrors and polished floors, I watched girls stretch, spin, leap, and laugh. Some were kind, some ignored me, some looked at me like I belonged to the mop bucket because my mother did. Once, when I was 10, a girl asked why I was always there but never danced. I said, "I don't want to." My mother heard me. Later, while locking the studio, she handed me the broom and said, "Never pretend you do not want something just because the world priced it above you." I cried that night. Not loud. Quiet tears in the back seat while she drove home. The next week, she made a deal with the studio owner. Extra cleaning hours in exchange for 1 beginner class a week. That was my first dance class. I was terrible, stiff, nervous, always counting wrong. But my mother clapped like I had floated. "You were inside your body today," she said. "That matters." For 5 years, I danced once a week. Never enough to become great. Enough to understand joy. Enough to know that rich girls were not born more graceful. They were simply given more room to practice. That lesson shaped my whole life. I became good at studying rooms. Who had space? Who was pushed to edges? Who spoke freely? Who apologized before asking? Who was treated like a guest in places their labor made possible? By college, I knew I wanted business. Not because I loved money. Because I had watched what lack of money did to good people. It made them tired. It made them accept disrespect. It made them grateful for crumbs. It made their dreams negotiate with rent. I earned scholarships, worked part-time, and studied finance and operations. My mother mailed me $20 sometimes with notes that said, "Buy fruit," as if fruit could protect me from the world. When I graduated, she cried so hard the photos were blurry. "I cleaned floors so you could own one someday," she whispered. I did not understand then that she meant more than a floor. I met Julian 2 years after college. He was charming in a way that felt like sunlight after a long winter. He was building a boutique financial advisory company focused on small business owners and creative entrepreneurs, or that was how he described it. In reality, he had a rented office, unstable clients, a polished website, and more confidence than revenue. We met at a workshop for minority-owned startups. I was presenting on cash flow planning. Julian approached me afterward with a notebook full of questions and a smile that made me forget the room was crowded. "You made finance sound human," he said. "It is human," I replied. "People just hide fear behind numbers." He looked at me then. Really looked. Or I thought he did. "I need someone like you," he said. I laughed. "You mean an accountant?" "No. Someone who sees the thing under the thing." That sentence hooked me. I had spent my life seeing the thing under the thing. Julian asked me to coffee, then dinner, then to review a client proposal, then to help restructure his pricing, then to meet his mother. That order should have told me something. Need came before love. His mother, Patricia Cross, was not openly cruel. She was cooler than that. She came from a family of school principals, church elders, and polished women who believed respectability could cover almost any unkindness. She liked Julian's ambition because it made her feel that every sacrifice she had made, raising him alone, had been worth it. She did not dislike me at first. She liked that I was educated, liked that I was quiet, liked that I could help Julian. But she did not like my background. Not the cleaning jobs, not the absent father, not the dance studio story. She once said, "Your mother must be proud that you moved beyond all that." "All what?" I asked. She smiled. "Struggle." I smiled back. "My mother is proud that I remember it." Patricia did not know what to do with that. Julian laughed it off later. She didn't mean anything. That became one of his favorite sentences. My mother heard it once and said, "People who never mean anything sure do cause a lot of wounds." I married Julian when I was 28. My mother wore a gold dress she had saved for. She danced at my wedding with her eyes closed, smiling like the floor belonged to her. For a while, marriage was beautiful. Not easy, but beautiful. Julian and I lived in a small apartment with thin walls and a balcony too narrow for 2 chairs. We worked long hours. We ate cheap meals. We dreamed loudly. Cross Advisory struggled in the beginning. Julian was good with people, but bad with follow-through. He could win trust quickly, then panic when clients expected structure. I built that structure. I created service packages, pricing models, client reports, retention systems, outreach campaigns, and compliance folders. When his cash ran short, I loaned money. When his assistant quit, I filled in. When his first major client threatened to leave because reports were late, I rebuilt the entire delivery system in 1 weekend. Julian cried that Sunday night. He held my hands and said, "You saved me." I believed the gratitude would last. Gratitude is easy when someone is still scared. It becomes harder when applause arrives. The company grew, then grew faster. Julian began receiving invitations to panels, business podcasts, investor dinners, and private networking events. He became the face of smart money for rising entrepreneurs. Articles called him disciplined, visionary, strategic. Disciplined. That one made me laugh the first time. I had created the discipline, but I laughed privately. That was my mistake. Erasure often begins when we choose peace over correction. At public events, Julian introduced me as my wife, Maya. Not co-strategist, not early partner, not the woman who built the systems that made his company function. Just wife. At first, I thought that was enough. Then, one evening at a business dinner, a man asked Julian how he managed to scale so cleanly. Julian smiled and said, "I've always had a gift for systems." I looked at him. He did not look back. On the car ride home, I said, "A gift for systems." He sighed. "Maya, it was a casual comment. It was a lie. Why do you need public credit for everything?" The question stunned me. Everything? I had asked for almost nothing. But people who take quietly often experience your first boundary as greed. My mother was diagnosed with kidney disease the next year. The world narrowed to appointments, medication schedules, work, and fear. Julian was kind at first. He visited, brought flowers, paid for some expenses, told me not to worry. But chronic illness is not a crisis with applause. It is a long road. People who love being heroes often grow tired when there is no dramatic rescue, only steady care. Julian became impatient. "You missed the partner dinner. My mother had a bad reaction to treatment. I understand, but we need to show up in these rooms. I needed to show up at the hospital." He rubbed his face. "I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I'm alone out there. Alone. While I was sitting beside my sick mother, after years of sitting beside his unstable business." That word stayed between us. My mother noticed the change before I admitted it. One afternoon, while I helped her sort medication, she asked, "Does he still see you?" I smiled too fast. "Mama, that is not an answer. He is under pressure." She looked at me carefully. "Pressure does not create character, it reveals it." I looked away. She reached for my hand. "Baby, don't let him turn your loyalty into background music." I wish I had listened faster. Serena entered Julian's life at a luxury business retreat in Miami. She was the founder of Veil Social Lab, a branding agency that helped wealthy entrepreneurs look more important online. Her specialty was transformation. She could take an ordinary consultant and make him look like a visionary leader with cinematic reels, private dinner photos, and captions about legacy. Julian returned from that retreat different. Not obviously, but enough. New phrases, new clothes, new goals. He started talking about expanding beyond small business clients and positioning for high net worth influence. He said cross-advisory needed a lifestyle identity. He said Serena understood how money moved in the new world. I said, "Do you mean actual money or attention?" He frowned. "Don't be dismissive. I'm asking a serious question. You always make things feel heavy." Heavy. Another word men use when they prefer women who make foolishness feel glamorous. Serena began appearing on calls, then in meetings, then at events, then in photos beside him. She was beautiful, yes, but beauty alone is rarely the danger. The danger was how she made Julian feel. Unburdened by memory, she did not know the old office, the late rent, the client panic, the nights I stayed awake fixing his mistakes. She knew the polished version, the one he preferred. And because she did not know what I had carried, she never made him feel indebted. Men who hate gratitude often fall in love with women who meet them after the struggle. I confronted him 6 months after Miami. "Are you having an affair?" He laughed. Not because it was funny, because he wanted me to feel foolish. "Serena is a brand strategist. So why did she send you a heart at midnight?" He looked annoyed. "It's how people talk online. I'm not asking about people. I'm asking about you." He turned cold. You are insecure because you don't understand this level of business. This level. There it was. The elevator had moved, and I was apparently still in the lobby. The affair became undeniable before he admitted it. Late nights, secret trips, deleted messages. Public photos where his hand hovered too close to her waist. Patricia suddenly praising Serena's energy and modern elegance. One Sunday dinner, Patricia said, "Some women know how to celebrate a man's rise without always reminding him of the climb." I put down my fork. My mother was gone by then. She had died 3 months earlier, holding my hand, telling me, "Dance when you can, baby, even if it's only in the kitchen." Grief had changed my tolerance for polite poison. I looked Patricia in the eye and said, "Some mothers teach their sons to confuse erasure with respect." The room went silent. Julian exploded in the car. "You embarrassed my mother. She insulted me. You could have ignored it." "I have ignored enough." He slammed the steering wheel with his palm, not violently toward me, but hard enough to reveal anger he had been polishing for years. "You are always dragging the past into everything. The past paid your rent." He laughed bitterly. "There it is." "Yes," I said. "There it is. The truth you keep calling a burden." We separated 2 weeks later. The divorce became final within a year. Julian fought me on money. Not openly enough to look cruel. Strategically. He claimed my contributions were marital support, not business value. He claimed cross-advisory had grown because of his leadership. He claimed I had my own career and needed no substantial settlement. He said he wanted things fair. Fair. A word people discover after taking more than their share. But he had forgotten 2 things. First, I kept records. Second, he had given me early shares in cross-advisory during the years when he could not afford to pay me. He had done it casually, almost dismissively, saying, "This is symbolic until we make real money." Symbolic became valuable. Very valuable. My lawyer made sure of that. The settlement was stronger than Julian expected. Not massive, not headline-worthy, but enough for me to breathe, heal, invest, and start again. I founded Adeyemi Bridge Consulting 6 months after the divorce. At first, it was just me in a small office with secondhand furniture and my mother's bracelet on my wrist. I helped women-led nonprofits, small creative businesses, and community organizations build financial systems, donor pipelines, and operational structures. I did not try to look glamorous. I tried to be useful. Useful had always been my gift. This time, I made sure useful was paid. The firm grew slowly, then quickly. A children's arts nonprofit recommended me to a family foundation. The foundation recommended me to a national donor network. That network introduced me to impact investors who cared about arts access, community ownership, and women-led enterprises. Within 3 years, Adeyemi Bridge was advising organizations with budgets larger than anything Julian had trusted me to touch. I kept quiet. Not secret, quiet. There is a difference. I did not need to prove my healing to people who had benefited from my silence. I donated to the Bell House Children's Arts Program in my mother's name because of the dance studio years. Every year, I increased the amount. Every year, they sent a handwritten thank you card. Every year, I placed it beside my mother's photo. When the gala invitation arrived, I almost declined. Then I saw the theme, Room to Dance. I cried. My mother would have loved that. So I went. I knew Julian might attend because his company had recently been trying to enter philanthropic advising. I knew Serena might be there because by then, their engagement was public. What I did not expect was for her to turn a children's fundraiser into a stage for cruelty. But cruelty often reveals what confidence hides. After the gala, my phone would not stop buzzing. Messages from people in the room. Messages from old colleagues. Messages from strangers who had seen clips online. Someone had posted the moment Serena challenged me, then the moment I raised the donation, then my short speech. The video spread through business circles, charity pages, and social media accounts that loved dramatic justice. The caption that traveled most was simple. She tried to mock his ex-wife with $7,000. The ex-wife donated $70,000 in her mother's name. By midnight, the scholarship fund had passed $250,000. By morning, it was nearly $400,000. The Bell House director called me crying. "Maya, do you understand what this means?" I did. It meant children would dance. Not from corners, not through windows, on the floor. In the room, with teachers, shoes, costumes, mirrors, music, space. My mother's name would be attached to that. Not Serena's mockery. Not Julian's shame. My mother's name. That was the victory that mattered. But the public fallout came too. Serena tried to control the story. She posted a statement the next morning. "Last night, I made a playful charity challenge that was sadly misinterpreted. I'm thrilled that it inspired generosity. Women should support women. Women should support women." The internet did not forgive that. People reposted the video of her saying, "I'm sure Maya has rhythm somewhere under all that seriousness." They slowed down Julian's smile. They captured his warning look. They compared Serena's $7,000 pledge to my $70,000 donation. Then someone found old posts where Serena had made jokes about starter wives and upgrade seasons. That was when the story moved from charity gossip to public embarrassment. Julian called me at 8:17 a.m. I did not answer. He texted, "Maya, this is getting out of hand." Then, "Serena didn't mean it like that." Then, "Please don't let people turn this into something ugly." I stared at the message. He still thought I was responsible for softening the consequences of his choices. Old habits, his and mine. But mine had changed. I replied once. "Your fiancé held the microphone." I only answered. Then I blocked him for the day. At noon, I had a meeting with Halden Pierce Impact Group. That was the investment group Julian had been courting for months. Halden Pierce funded social enterprise projects, arts access infrastructure, community business networks, and ethical advisory firms. They had approached Adeyemi Bridge quietly after one of our nonprofit clients recommended us. We had been negotiating a major partnership to expand operational support for women-led community organizations across 5 states. Julian wanted Halden Pierce too. I knew because one of their partners had mentioned Cross Advisory's pitch in passing. "They have strong visibility," she said carefully, "but we are concerned about depth." Visibility. That was Julian now. The meeting after the gala was already scheduled before Serena's challenge, but the timing made it feel almost like fate. I entered the Halden Pierce conference room wearing a cream suit, my mother's bracelet, and the calm of a woman who had survived worse than public mockery. The managing partner, Elise Morgan, greeted me with both hands. "Maya," she said, "last night was remarkable. It was unexpected." She smiled. "That too." We spent 2 hours discussing the partnership. Budgets, program models, reporting, regional staffing, risk, governance, measurement, real work, the kind Julian used to find boring until someone else made it impressive. At the end, Elise said, "We'd like to move forward." I nodded. Professionally. Inside, I heard my mother clapping. The deal positioned Adeyemi Bridge as the lead operational partner for a multi-million-dollar initiative. It would create dozens of jobs, fund training programs, support nonprofits, and give my firm a national platform. By evening, the press release was drafted. By the next morning, it was public. That was when Julian called from a new number. I answered because I knew exactly why. "Maya," he said. His voice was low. "Careful." I could hear the panic beneath it. "Congratulations on Halden Pierce." "Thank you. You didn't tell me you were working with them." I almost laughed. "We are divorced, Julian." "I know, but what?" He exhaled. "We pitched them too." "I know." Silence. Then he said, "Did you know before last night that they were choosing Adeyemi Bridge?" "Not officially." "Did last night affect their decision?" I leaned back in my chair. Maybe Serena should have considered that before turning a fundraiser into a humiliation exercise. "That is not fair." Neither was asking me to dance for your fiancé's amusement. He was quiet. Then softer. I should have stopped her. Yes? I knew when she took the microphone that it was wrong. Yes? I still didn't stop her. No. The silence stretched. For once, he did not defend himself. That almost made me sad. Not enough to comfort him. I'm sorry, he said. You are embarrassed. I am sorry. Maybe both. He breathed out. Maybe both. That was the most honest thing he had said to me in years. I ended the call politely. No drama. No long speech. No open door. Just enough. Serena did not take the public embarrassment well. At first, she tried elegance, then victimhood, then silence. Then, finally, anger. A week after the gala, she appeared on a podcast hosted by a woman known for soft interviews with rich influencers. She said she had been bullied by a bitter ex-wife narrative and that people misunderstood her humor because successful women are often targeted. I did not respond. The internet did. Clips from the gala resurfaced again. Then a former assistant from Serena's agency posted about Serena's habit of mocking women behind their backs. Another former client described her as kind upward, cruel downward. The phrase stuck. Kind upward, cruel downward. I wrote it in my notebook. It explained many people. Julian's engagement began to crack publicly 3 weeks later. Not because of me. Because relationships built on image often cannot survive image damage. Serena had loved being seen with Julian when he looked like an upgrade. Julian had loved being seen with Serena when she made him look chosen by a glamorous future. But now, everywhere they went, people remembered the gala. At a private dinner, someone reportedly joked, "Careful, Serena might challenge you to dance." At a business mixer, Julian was asked whether Cross Advisory supported art scholarships too. At a charity board meeting, Serena was quietly removed from a planning committee. Small cuts. Social consequences rarely arrive like storms. They arrive like paper cuts until the hand cannot close. Julian came to my office 6 weeks after the gala. He did not have an appointment. My receptionist, Nia, called me. "There is a Mr. Cross here. He says it's personal." I almost said send him away. Then I thought of my mother. Not because she would have welcomed him. No, because she always taught me to look at a person once after their mask slips. Not for them, for myself. "Give me 5 minutes," I said. When Julian entered, he looked older. Still handsome, still polished. But tired in a way good lighting could not fix. He looked around my office. Not huge, not flashy, warm. Bookshelves, plants, a framed photo of my mother beside a small bronze sculpture of a dancer. His eyes lingered on her photo. "She would be proud," he said. I sat behind my desk. Yes. He winced slightly. Good. That was not a place for him to enter easily. He sat when I nodded toward the chair. "I came to apologize properly," he said. I waited. He folded his hands. "I should have stopped Serena. Not because of the backlash. Not because of Halden Pierce. Because it was cruel. And I knew it was cruel when she said your name." I said nothing. He continued. I smiled because I wanted the room to believe I was above the awkwardness. But really, I was afraid of her. Afraid of looking controlled by my past. Afraid of seeming like I still cared whether you were hurt. His voice cracked slightly. And the worst part is, I did care. I just cared more about how I looked. That was Julian. Not all of him, but enough of him. I leaned back. "You did that in our marriage too. I know. You cared when I was exhausted, but not enough to stop taking. Yes. You cared when your mother disrespected me, but not enough to correct her. Yes. You cared when Serena crossed lines, but not enough to step back." He closed his eyes. Yes. The yeses did not heal everything, but they stopped insulting the wound. "What do you want?" I asked. He opened his eyes. "Nothing." I raised an eyebrow. That was new. "I mean it," he said. "I don't want a favor. I don't want you to speak publicly. I don't want Halden Pierce. I don't want access." Then why come? Because for years I let you carry the truth alone. I wanted at least once to bring some of it back. I looked at him for a long time. Then I said, I hear you. His face softened with pain. He had hoped for forgiveness. I gave acknowledgement. Sometimes that is all a person earns. Before he left, he looked again at the dancer sculpture. Did you ever dance again? He asked. I smiled. Yes. He nodded. Good. After he left, I sat alone for a while. The office was quiet. Outside the window, people moved through the city, carrying lunches, bags, errands, private griefs. Life continued the way it always does after big moments. Less dramatic, more demanding. I thought I would feel satisfaction. Instead, I felt release. That was better. The Ruth Adeyemi Dance Scholarship launched 3 months after the gala. Bell House held the first class in a renovated studio with bright mirrors, soft floors, and a wall painted with the words, "No child watches from the corner." I stood beside the director while 26 children entered the room for the first time. Some ran in, some tiptoed, some stared at the mirrors. One little girl stood near the door, holding her grandmother's hand, eyes wide with fear and longing. I recognized her immediately. Not her face. Her position. The edge of the room. The place where wanting and not having meet. I knelt in front of her. "What's your name?" "Amara," she whispered. "That's beautiful." She looked at my bracelet. "Are you the teacher?" "No. I'm someone who used to watch from corners." Her grandmother's eyes filled. Amara looked toward the other children. "What if I'm bad?" I smiled. "Then you will be bad in the room, not outside it. That is a good beginning." She laughed, then let go of her grandmother's hand. When the music started, the children moved awkwardly, joyfully, loudly. Not polished, not perfect, alive. I cried so hard the director handed me tissues without looking surprised. That night, I went home and danced in my kitchen. Barefoot. No audience, no challenge. No $7,000 insult. Just me and my mother's favorite song playing from an old speaker. I danced badly. Then better. Then not caring which. The next year brought growth I could barely believe. Adeyemi Bridge expanded into 4 cities. Then 6. We hired women who had been underpaid in nonprofits for years and paid them properly. We built training programs for community leaders who knew their mission but needed financial structure. We created a small fund for art spaces in working-class neighborhoods. Every time we opened a new program, I thought of my mother's mop bucket. Not with shame, with reverence. That bucket had carried more dignity than half the champagne glasses in Serena's world. Serena and Julian ended their engagement quietly 8 months after the gala. The announcement used words like mutual respect and different paths. People told me. I did not ask. Patricia called me once after the breakup. Julian's mother. I almost did not answer. Then curiosity won. "Maya," she said, voice stiff. "Patricia." A pause. I watched the scholarship video. I said nothing. "Your mother would have been proud." My throat tightened despite myself. "Yes." Another pause. I was unkind to her memory. That surprised me. Not an apology yet, but a door cracking. "I was unkind to you," she added. "Yes." I thought if Julian rose, it meant I had done well as a mother. I did not care enough about who he stepped over. That was more honesty than she had ever given me during the marriage. "I hope you tell him that," I said. "I have." "Good." She took a breath. "I am sorry, Maya." I looked at my mother's photo. Some apologies arrive after they are needed. That does not make them worthless. It only makes them limited. "I hear you," I said. She cried quietly. I did not comfort her. But I did not hang up either. That was enough. 2 years after the gala, Bell House invited me to speak at its annual fundraiser. This time, I was not near the back of the room. I was the keynote speaker. The event was held in the same ballroom. Same chandeliers, same stage, same polished floor, but I was not the same woman. I wore a deep green gown and my mother's bracelet. My hair was pulled back. My hands did not shake when I stepped onto the stage. I looked at the spot where Serena had stood with the microphone, then at the tables full of donors, artists, teachers, parents, and children from the scholarship program. Amara sat in the front row with her grandmother. She had become one of the program's brightest students, still shy, still careful, but when music started, she unfolded. I began my speech with the truth. 2 years ago, I stood in this room and was invited onto this stage as a joke. The room became quiet. Someone thought asking me to dance for money would remind everyone that I had been replaced. Instead, it reminded me of my mother. I looked down at my bracelet. My mother cleaned dance studios at night. She could not afford the lessons she wanted for me at first, but she found a way. She taught me that dignity is not given by the people holding microphones. It is carried by the person who knows why she is standing. People listened. Some wiped tears. I continued. Because of that night, because of what happened in this room, hundreds of children have now received dance scholarships, arts access, transportation support, and performance opportunities. The insult was small. The door it opened was large. Applause rose. I waited. Then I said the line that mattered most. Do not be ashamed of the places where people tried to humiliate you. Sometimes those places become the first address of your power. The room stood. I saw Amara clapping above her head. I laughed through tears. After the speech, an elderly woman approached me. She wore a simple blue dress and held both my hands. My daughter was mocked at work last year, she said. She left and started her own bakery. I'm going to send her your speech. Tell her I said congratulations. She still cries. So did I. The woman nodded. Then I'll tell her that too. That night, after the gala ended, I stood alone on the empty dance floor. The staff was clearing tables. The flowers were being gathered. The stage lights were dimming. The same floor where Serena had tried to make me small. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I heard my mother's voice. You will not watch from the corner. I took one step, then another. A slow turn, not a performance. A prayer. Julian saw me. I did not know he was there until I opened my eyes. He stood near the ballroom entrance, holding his coat. He looked surprised, maybe moved. He had attended quietly as a donor, not as a guest of honor. I had seen his name on the list, but had not looked for him. He walked over slowly. Beautiful speech, he said. Thank you. He looked around the ballroom. This place feels different now. No, I said. I do. He smiled sadly. That too. For a moment, old history stood between us. Not pulling, just present. I'm glad you built this, he said. I built a lot of things you did not notice. He nodded. I know. That was enough. He did not ask to dance. I would have said no, but he knew better. Growth, perhaps. Or memory. Either way, he simply said, "Good night, Maya. Good night, Julian." Then he left. I remained on the floor a little longer, not because I was waiting, because I was not. People love the revenge part of my story. They love Serena's face when the donation board changed. They love Julian going pale when Halden Pierce chose my firm. They love the engagement ending. They love the public applause. I understand. Those moments were satisfying. But they were not the deepest victory. The deepest victory was this. I no longer needed to prove I had rhythm. I no longer needed to prove I had value. I no longer needed Julian to admit what I had done. I no longer needed Patricia to respect my mother. I no longer needed Serena to feel sorry. I had taken the insult, opened it carefully, and found my mother inside it. That is what saved me. Not money, not applause, memory, purpose. The decision to make sure another child did not sit in the corner pretending she did not want to dance. If you are listening to this, and someone has mocked you, replaced you, underestimated you, or invited others to laugh at your pain, hear me clearly. You do not have to answer every insult immediately. You do not have to perform for people who only want entertainment from your wounds. You do not have to shrink because someone younger, richer, louder, or shinier, stands beside the person who failed to value you. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them hold the microphone. Then choose your moment. Not to destroy yourself proving them wrong. Not to become cruel. Not to spend your life dancing for people who never paid attention when you were building the floor. Choose the moment that turns shame into service. Use the room. Use the attention. Use the pain if you must. But do not let it use you. Serena challenged me with $7,000 because she thought my worth was small enough to buy for 30 seconds. She was wrong. Julian stood beside her because he thought silence would protect his image. He was wrong. The room watched because people love spectacle. But by the end, they witnessed something else. A mother's name. A child's future. A woman who had once been left in the corner stepping into the center without asking anyone's permission. I did surprise them. But more than that, I surprised myself. I learned that I could stand in a room built to shame me and still choose grace with teeth. I learned that being replaced by the wrong person is sometimes how life makes room for the right version of you. I learned that dignity does not always whisper. Sometimes it takes the microphone, raises the donation, says your mother's name clearly, and walks away while the room is still clapping. And if anyone ever challenges you to dance for their amusement, remember this. You do not owe them a performance, but you may owe yourself a moment, not to prove you can move, to prove you were never stuck.